Welcome to the It Takes a Village podcast by Village Bank, where we bring leaders with expertise in finance, accounting, entrepreneurship, leadership, and branding into our village to help entrepreneurs like you in our community. As an entrepreneur's bank, we hear all the time that you want to know more about the financial nuances of starting and running a business. These questions are profoundly important and can be incredibly stressful. That's why we're inviting prominent leaders and friends of our village to weigh in and build a village of answers and connections on the It Takes a Village podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today we're talking to Jamie Taets, CEO of Keystone Group International and an expert on weaving culture and strategy together to lead successful businesses. We're living through and learning from the pandemic, protests, and Paycheck Protection Program. But in preparation for the new normal, you're wondering, now what? We asked Jaime and Aleesha, what should I do with my business? What should I do about my finances? And what should I do about my business's culture? They will help you gain clarity on what to do next. This episode was recorded during a live webinar event.
So what I do all day, and actually part of why Aleesha and I met, is I'm the CEO of Keystone Group International, and we are focused on strategy, people, and culture. We're all about helping small and mid-market businesses create a competitive advantage. That's what we're junkies for competitive advantage, and it comes, as you know, from the people and getting your culture right, even more than your business strategy.
Absolutely. And our mission is around helping the entrepreneur, and so that's why we've got synergy here, because we're able to come together and help the entrepreneur with finance, help the entrepreneur with what we're seeing in the industry that they're in or the industry that they're selling to. And Jamie can come in and really work on the inside of the business, which is, I will tell you as a bank president, just as important. Numbers are just as important as culture, management, succession, etc. Yep. They all affect each other. They're one and the same.
Absolutely.
So, by the way, I'm Aleesha. I'm the president and vice chair of Village Bank. Village Bank is, well, today we're almost $400 million in assets because we did about $65 million in PPP loans over the last several weeks, just like a lot of great community banks in our area did. But we are based north of the city today, and we are expanding our market into the Twin Cities. And I'd say we're really, really proud to be an entrepreneur's bank. I think that's what we all, PPP was wild and crazy, and I have some of my colleagues in the room who all shake their head very quickly. Yes. But I think it was also a time for us to really show who we are. Absolutely. And show community bankers can get the job done when the going gets tough. The tough takes care of Main Street, and that's important and that's vital because it affects the neighborhoods we live in. It affects the schools that where our kids go. It affects the parks. It affects everything. And so that was really hectic time, but it was a great time because we all got to step up and really do our mission, not just say it.
And you did. And I was on so many calls, and it was heartbreaking during this time when the Wells Fargos and the U.S. banks, people weren't getting what they needed from them. And there were business owners that needed this to be able to not furlough and lay off employees, and they weren't getting it. Mm-hmm. And I think it just it really reinforced for everyone that it's all about relationships, right? It doesn't matter what business it's in, is you need partners that are in your corner when times are good and when they're not.
Absolutely. It's those shared values, right? Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. Just last night I was talking to, I got a call. It's a client that we've had at the bank. It's an engineering firm. It's been a client of ours for, I think, 12 years now. And one of the owners, their brother-in-law, has an office here and a couple other states, and he shared that they had a 39-year relationship with a very, very large bank. So obviously over time that relationship has changed as this bank has gotten very, very large. And he shared the fact that they said, we're not doing PPP, good luck. Like, I'm sorry, good luck. And they're like, it's just something we don't want to figure out. And so this brother-in-law called and said, they mentioned you guys and how can we form a relationship? And as I was listening to him, I was thinking to myself, so one of my clients told me their industry changed. They just weren't going to figure it out. I mean, how would that affect the financing, the way I looked at their business?
Oh my gosh, no matter what service they provided you.
Yeah, you got to be innovative. Like you've got to figure out where you're going to go or how you're going to pivot, how you're going to sell, whatever that is.
Yep.
And that's what happens. And I was just like you don't want to say too much. You don't be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Oh my gosh.
This is a great example, though, that's something I want to share with people who are listening. We hear it all the time. Is there's a lot of businesses right now that are saying everything's up in the air. How do I even think about my strategy anymore? Right? Like I'm just surviving week to week. We're trying to, figure out what's going to happen in the fall. And my answer to that always is that you have to get laser focused, right? Leadership in times of peace, good times is easy. Leadership in times of war, which is where we're at right now, is absolutely essential. Now should be when you're doubling down on your strategy and your focus. And the analogy that we give to our clients when they say, I don't know how you can expect me to think 3 years from now, right? Like what we want to be. And how can you not? Because someone has to keep the light at the end of the tunnel on. Whether that's you as an entrepreneur thinking more strategically. And yes, then you need to go back and deal with what's happening this week. But you have to keep that light at the end of the tunnel on. And that's for the businesses that don't do that. I think a year from now, they're going to be in trouble. I think it'll be a lagging thing. I do too. But they have to continue that strategic mindset.
Absolutely. And it's not, I feel like sometimes it's not talking about what we don't know, it's talking about what we do know. Right. And what we do know from experience and skill set. And I think that this is actually where the generation gap can come together. Because maybe you have someone sitting in the office that's been in that office for 10 years, 20 years, 30, 39 years, and they've been through a couple of recessions. They've been through a couple of experiences. And so they know and they understand a particular piece of the business, the industry, government, financing, whatever it might be. And how can you use that with what's going on today, with what they know, and bridge a gap there? So you're forming the relationship, you're using, strategic power forming this relationship, but it's also about being able then to say, if this has happened during the last recession, we know that government's going to come in, probably help out with mortgages to keep people in their homes. We know that the government will probably, or Congress will come in with another SBA program, which will keep businesses in play and give banks additional ways to learn small businesses.
There are certain key indicators that things are going to happen.
And so how can we follow that? And I think there's a lot we do know. So rather than being afraid of the unknown, focus on what you know and how you can make it present.
And then, keep a cadence, keeping it in front of you and predicting when something shifts. But I don't think we can be afraid of change. And most of our clients wouldn't say they're afraid of change. What they're afraid of is like making a wrong decision. But the thing that's worse than making a wrong decision is making no decision at all. And there's a lot of people that are not making decisions right now. And instead of, they're standing in paralysis, right? It's just take a step forward and then we'll adjust if we need to.
Yeah. And when you're scared, what do? You don't trust people. You're not transparent with information. And, I was just reading an article in, I'm trying to remember the name, but it was Adam Grant, and they were like quoting what Peter Drucker had said about, we're all going to go home. No one's going to work in an office. And he was like 1993. And they're like, look, it took coronavirus to make that happen. And it's like Adam Grant, who I'm a huge fan of, was talking a lot around, you've got to trust. Because you may not trust today, or you may say, oh, well, there's no jobs available, so I'm going to, take advantage of leadership today, or I'm going to, not pay people what they're worth, or not make them do this work or that work. But what's going to happen once the economy flips back? Or what's going to happen when those people feel that lack of trust, or feel like their ideas haven't been listened to, and the economy starts to flip, right? And so it's just, I think there's so much preparation we can do now for the future, and there's so much we know today that we can help us survive the future.
Absolutely, and that's a piece, when we talk about the people side. When business owners say, what can we do right now? And there's things that are out of our control. What you can do is double down on your people and your culture. And that's not a fluffy word anymore. I think businesses realized how strong their culture was or wasn't when this all happened, right? And how strong it's going to continue to be. And creating that solid foundation now, that when things do turn around and take off, your team's loyal because you treated them right, and they're going to do amazing things. for your business when they're ready, when it's ready to go again, right?
And I
it's
always
taking
think
off.
like that people stuff, like I said, it turns into the numbers, but it's also allowing your people, in my case, our villagers, to have view behind passion projects and what they're passionate about.
Yes.
And one of our values is build something special. So we know we have to build a digital strategy as well, because whether you're walking in a bank or walking out to you, you've got to have this digital presence. And so it's how do we continue to do what we do, but do it digitally too. And if you've got good people that are passionate about them, allow them to do that right now. Like allow them, to build that right now, because sometimes those passion projects are way more than, Megan actually said, she's like, I want to put my finger on something and say I did that. And I thought about that. I'm like, God, who doesn't want to do that?
Yes.
Right? Like that's awesome. And that's like a sense of ownership. That's really important. That's really important.
And that's what, we're talking about. Leaders are going to be made during this crisis. They always are.
Yeah.
And it's the leaders that are going to step up and empower their people to do those types of things that are going to have the advantage, right? Because it's those people that are going to come up with ideas. We've done more innovation sessions with clients in the last 3 months because they want to get the ideas out there and they want people to be talking about this. Like, what are you seeing? How can we do this differently? Because if the C-suite has to carry the load for all the ideas and then how we're going to move through this and pivot, you're in trouble, right? It has to be other people in the organization. We had a client that had a service tech who was out in the field come up with an idea that fundamentally will shift their business.
I love that.
Because he's seeing it happen. And he's like, I think there's an opportunity here. And they asked, right? And so I think there's an opportunity to engage with your people right now in those conversations.
Absolutely. You got to be engaging when you're someone else.
Yep.
Because good talent, they're always marketable no matter what.
Even in, just
like good customers, good
Yep.
talent, good products, good stuff. Has anyone stopped buying from Amazon? No. Right?
No,
Has anyone stopped looking at a new phone or no, because if it's a great product, it's a great brand, it's great people, they're always going to be.
That's not what's going to be pushed to the side when you have to make decisions. Absolutely.
How are your clients dealing with the pandemic? There's I guess from a culture perspective, because what I've learned so much about, I always call our team villagers, but I want to take villagers off for a quick second. And I've learned so much about individual people and circumstances, and great circumstances, but also difficult circumstances, about anxieties, fears, family, opportunity, people that step up that I didn't know would. Just good and bad, like across the whole scope.
So our clients, I'm going to brag for a moment because our clients are doing really well with this right now, and I'll tell you why. The first week that this happened, we called all of them, and not about business, not about, are you going to do that project with us or not? We called them and said, here's what's going on. Every human being has basic human needs. Things like certainty, to feel significant, to feel connection and love, and to feel like they're growing, right? We did a whole blog on this you can find on our website. But I put the blog out like in a morning because I was like, this is what leaders need to understand right now as it's happening. And we called them and said, when everything else around them is swirling and it's uncertain, you have the opportunity to satisfy some of these human needs for them, even in the smallest way, while this is happening. And it's exactly what you talked about. It's talking to them, finding projects and ideas that we didn't have time to do before and giving them that growth opportunity even during the pandemic. And so all of our clients were like, duh, like now, right? Like we should be doing this. And so they doubled down on those conversations. And we even created a check sheet for them where they could sit down with an employee on each of the human needs and have the employee rate themselves on here's where I'm at.
Because I'm just
depending right on the relationship. But what it did for the leaders is help them understand that we don't know what people are dealing with at home. The financial situation, a spouse getting furloughed. And so they bring that to work. You can't turn that off. And I think understanding it, while you can't fix it, you can certainly understand it. And that creates a deeper connection with that employee, that you care about them as the whole person, which we've been talking about for years. But I think leaders realize the workplace is not the place that we shut off all emotion.
No.
And we don't, and there's a lot of, they think they need to keep it kind of business. And I think those walls have come down.
Did you see that with all types of leaders? And I mean, because we're both moms, like we're
Yep.
both,
Yep.
I know you well, and I know how much you care about people, you know, professionally and personally. Like, did you see that with all types of leaders? And I'm talking age, race, sex, everything.
Some did it better than others.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about vulnerability, which is a
Yeah.
weird word in a business environment, but it was something that was already people were starting to talk about. Here's what I think this pandemic did is it leveled the playing field to where the leaders were dealing with the exact same stuff that everybody else was.
Yeah.
So they connected, and we saw a lot of our leaders, like, and no offense against CFOs or people who are more, you know, they tend to not be as emotional. We saw them create relationships with their employees that was totally different, because in a recession, the leadership still carries like a burden, right? And the stress is different. In this, everybody was dealing with uncertainty and fear and all of this. So it allowed them to connect on a different level. So I think leaders that wanted to and cared got stronger during this time. They may not realize it yet, but I think everyone grew in their leadership.
Did you love Zoom calls, or did you hate Zoom calls?
I don't mind Zoom calls. I mean, we had done some of them. We hadn't done as many as we do. I'm a hugger, so it bothers me, right, to not meet people in person. But with Zoom, I mean, you can still read nonverbals. You can see body language. You can look someone in the eye. Like, I'm very intentional on the camera. And I think we helped we have like, here's Zoom best practices for meetings that we send to all of our clients right away. Like, here's how you do it so that it feels like you're connected. Because if one person's not on, it's going to change the feeling, right? If they're not on video. So I think people are learning to work with it.
I love Zoom.
Yeah.
I love it. You want to know why? I learned so much about it.
Yeah.
You saw who was, like you mentioned, you know, you picked on the CFO role, and you got to see who was like in this position, and they had, you know, the background was, you know, golf course or whatever it might be. One person we worked with the background always looked like it was like the wicked witch of the West, right? It was like this really crazy background, and she was like the furthest thing from that. So I would like laugh, like I'd always be like, what is she doing? Right? Like, but I think the real personal piece was that you got to get to know each other, because how often are you looking in someone else's home? Totally. And how often are you seeing their kids come in and be like, I don't care if they're on the phone, I need this, or, you know, the kid runs by, or you could actually see the pain, the stress, and you could ask the right questions when it just wasn't working. In my mind, I also got to see who really stepped up and did turn that camera on, did make eye contact, and understood how important that meeting was. Okay. I think there's others we could do coaching with. I just didn't get it yet, and it was our job to coach that up, right? Absolutely. So I think there was so many opportunities there. I think it gave a lot of teams, because I'm in banking, so it's not like, you know, diverse like marketing or technology, and like it's like an older industry, and most of our clients are like you. They want to hug, they want to do a great handshake, they want to sign with pen and piece of paper, right? That lots of people have touched. And so it was our job to kind of start to reinvent that, and our job to not only do it externally, but really start to do it internally as well, and talk about this might be for the next month, it might be for the next year.
And that's the question that we're getting now. The now what is, how do we transition back, even if they've already started to transition back? And so the guidance that we give right on Zoom worked for us. Okay, then maybe that works for you. Like, there's no playbook for this. So don't try to find a playbook. You need to align it to your values and your business model. And do not feel guilt. Do not worry about what other businesses are doing right now. That's my guidance for anybody that's listening on how do we transition everybody back, or how do we decide what our remote workers look like. Because there's
one component to that. What we did is we talked about what are the rules or the suggestions that we have right now. Because I said, what's the law? I always wonder, what are the laws, right? But we started with what are best recommendations right now, and then where do we start to insert those values into that? Because you know, this is the unpretty part of it, but first and foremost for business. There's an economic component to all of this, Jamie. And, you know, for one of our employees that maybe have a compromised immune system or are at risk getting sick is biggest challenge they could have.
Yeah.
But for one of our employees, they're 20, 34 years old, kids, depend on their benefits. Biggest risk they have is losing a job because the bank's not doing well, right? And so I think for us, it was really how do you play both?
Yes.
And then we are able to, how do we help our clients with that too?
Yes.
Because there is that risk and reward, and
it's a balance, and it's different for every industry, right? And that's why I say there's no playbook, is you have to have some flexibility right now. We're telling them through the end of the year, there needs to be standards, right? Like and then there needs to be a process for someone who doesn't feel comfortable meeting those standards. It's documented to say, we understand you have a child with a compromised immune system, or you do. That there's just no like one size fits all. We all go back to the office, but it has to be balanced with, here's what we need to be able to function, right? There are certain roles. And so it's coming together on those standards, but then leaning on your values, which you guys do, to help you make decisions. That's what your values are there for, right? When you have to make a hard decision, you should be leaning on those. And so some of this is hard decisions for companies right now, but we have to have some flexibility. When no one knows if schools are going to go back in the fall, right? They haven't announced, like, please let schools go back in the fall. I have 4 teenagers. I'm saying a little prayer every day, but we don't know. That changes, right? A lot of people's situations. So
I was just having that conversation yesterday with someone about, we were talking about how it's so great that, women are in the C-suite now and more women are in these positions, but then you say, okay, well, okay, so I'm not school, because generally who's that falling on, right?
Oh, yeah.
And how does it affect that?
Forbes just came out with an article that it's actually affecting women leaders the most, because they tend to share the burden, the more of the burden of this, especially if it continues, and women entrepreneurs. We're trying to jump
it is. It's even if we're not the ones there actually, doing the lessons, doing the learning, it's still in our minds on how is it going to be scheduled? Did this person show up? Did this happen? Right? And so that's whole.
Yeah, we could do all.
All right. How is your what's going on with your clients as far as budgeting and forecasting? What are you seeing? Because that's a big piece for us with our clients right now.
They're taking a little shorter term horizon on that, right? And keeping it in front of them more, right? Taking a quarterly approach. But they're still, we're talking 2021 right now. A lot of them, I think people went through the stage of like, do we give up on 2020 or do we, is there still something to be gained from 2020? And I think it's shifting right now. I think people realize there's 6 months left in the year, and there's a lot left to do, and there's opportunity.
Absolutely.
And so I'm curious on what guidance you're giving on the financial side and what you're seeing.
It's interesting. I was with a business yesterday who told me they're down about 10% year to date, but what they're seeing with the service that they provide is the service they provide, the price point is much higher.
Right.
So their revenue is up, yet the amount of business they're doing is down.
Yep.
And so I think what you're seeing again is that this hasn't affected white collar as much as it's affected blue collar today.
Yep.
And you're going to see, you and I were just talking about how we've gone out and spent a little bit of money because we were so pent up and not going anywhere. And it was like, we're white collar, it's different. I actually worked more during this
I did
than less, right?
Yes,
and thank God for that we have an opportunity to do that. There's a lot of people, right, that don't have that opportunity right now. So for the most part, I've heard anywhere from about 30% down to the 10% number yesterday. And what I continue to hear over and over, I heard it again yesterday, I heard it last week, is that small businesses are starting to invest in technology. And starting to invest in cloud-based technology and starting to say, well, we've talked about this for years, but we haven't done anything. And now we have to do it. So, I like that because we're an SBA preferred lender. So we can say, that's a great 7A loan. Let's go. Right? Like that's a great, whether you're hiring salespeople, you're hiring or you're purchasing infrastructure, or you need to bring another IT person on to run it, manage it, etc. Those are all 7A loans that can have a 10-year amortization or term and amortization if you want. They're government backed, so banks are like, okay, let's look at that. Let's look at and see what that does. And I think that those loans are even going to get better and better and better throughout the end of this year and into next year. Meaning government will guarantee more, fees will be less, etc. So watch for that. Call us anytime. We'll let you know. But I really do think that there was the short-term PPP financing, and now government knows they've got to back a long-term play. And small businesses are saying, how do we put technology, how do we put digital strategy into our business model? Because we don't know what's going to happen this fall. We don't know when there's going to be a vaccination, and the world's changing because everyone's figured out they don't need to use car, gas, time to get somewhere. They can buy it right here.
I would say about 20% of our clients are down. 80% are actually going to be not to budget necessarily, but still be up this year because they were healthy going into this. I mean, I think it's how you entered into it. And industry, absolutely. Our hospitality, healthcare, dental, kind of, I mean, there's certain clients that it just didn't matter. It was just not a good situation. But most of them, and PPP gave them almost some opportunity to look bigger, right? To keep their eyes on the prize because it gave them a little bit of breathing room to say, we can still invest. We might be able to do that project that we thought we were going to have to cut, right? On technology or something. So most of our clients are really optimistic. I was just telling your team before we started that it seems strange. I mean, I'm super optimistic, but I don't hear from a ton of business owners that are like, the sky is falling, right? There was a couple weeks where they were, but people are looking to the future. And maybe we just have the best clients, which we do. That might just be the other.
You have really strong, I would say community, but like strong, Main Street businesses where there's generally generations and there's like a really strong management structure that will probably hire you, right? That would make some sense.
They made a good decision.
But like you do have good, strong businesses that I feel know how to
they've weathered other storms. I mean, like I think this is where the newer businesses is what I worry about. The 5 years or less, they didn't weather 08, 09. They didn't weather September 11th. And it turned up. So business owners that are looking at this is just a different crisis. And now it's one we didn't have a playbook for. But as you say, every crisis it's an opportunity. There's always opportunity created. And we just have to keep our eyes open to it instead of our heads down trying to survive. It's balancing that.
It is.
Right now.
It is. What's the biggest challenge you're hearing about? Like, is it
right now?
What is the biggest one?
So the one we get called the most on right now, and it's a sensitive subject, is diversity and equality stuff. And it's real. Businesses don't know how to talk to their employees. They don't even know how to talk to their leadership teams about it. And what we've really helped them understand is how to look at diversity. And I'm not going to get into like what you should be doing, or I'm not an expert on this, but what we're helping them do is when it comes to diversity is you have to define what that means for your business. I truly believe that because none of us are diversity and inclusion experts, right? The CEOs of businesses aren't. Is what does it mean for your business first? It's diversity of thought, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of experience. Like, what does it mean for your business? And then how do you value it? Because here's the big thing is you can have, I'm going to be really forward on this, is I had a client say, we need to like understand our numbers, almost a affirmative action kind of thing. And what I told them is like, but that doesn't matter if you're not actually using the diversity that you're bringing into your business. So this is not an affirmative action play. This is a true diversity play. And it's people with different experiences. And how are we using their ideas? Do we look like our customer? Do we even understand our customer? Right? Because we live the life that they live and we've had the experiences they've had. That's what we're getting our clients to understand right now, is to assess diversity that way. Understand how you value it, and then how do you promote it? Do you get the ideas to the table that are the best ideas? Because what you can have is you can have a C-suite, and this is what some of the big brands, Amazon, Facebook, they're all getting a lot of heat right now, is you can have some of the biggest brands that have maybe diversity in them, but if they all graduated from Harvard and they all had the same upbringing, it's not diverse. The color of your skin, your sexual orientation doesn't matter in that situation because you're not getting the best and most diverse ideas to the table. That's, to me,
But
what diversity
group think
really
so
is.
easy.
It is way easier,
Easy.
right? You hire people that think the way that you do.
Meeting, next thing, right? I mean, seriously, it's so.
That's what you should be
Yeah.
talking about. And you should be talking to your entire employee base. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, I've got these bullets that I'm telling all of our clients to share is how do we define it? You know, how do we value it? How do we use it? And how do we promote it in our organization? And if you can't answer those 3 questions, you need to, right? Regardless of everything else that's going on, you need to be able to answer that.
But it really starts at the top. I mean, you have
Totally.
to have leadership understand that and ask the questions. Otherwise, it doesn't feel safe
Correct.
to ask those questions, because I think there's so much passion behind this, and there's so much right and wrong, and people feel like there is lines in the sand there that I think it's important leadership opens up those conversations.
Yes.
And leadership makes it safe to talk about, and it doesn't affect pay, promote, anything like that. I've had a lot of people, and not even, I mean, just colleagues in other fields and friends and college roommates that really just talk about how they don't even feel safe talking about it.
Yeah.
That it's not even an option to talk about.
And see, that's
scary to me.
Because to me, the definition of ignorance is when you have an opportunity to learn something different and you choose not to.
Yeah.
Whatever that is about.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all have an opportunity right now to learn. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean we have to change our entire business. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean we have to change our own belief system or the values of our business, but we certainly need to learn and we need to get curious. And for business leaders that are listening, you need to talk about it. You need to talk about it with your leadership group, but you also need to talk about it with your employees, and you don't have to have the answers. This is not a situation where you need to have the answers. You need to have the right questions.
Absolutely.
You need to be asking the right questions. Mm-hmm. And please, for free, call me, and I would love to talk through this with anybody, because I'm so passionate about this being our opportunity. Mm-hmm. And if we choose to not have these conversations now and just let it go to the wayside, I think it's going to be tough going forward in our organizations.
I agree. Employees. And again, just making it okay for everyone to ask the question. Even if you fundamentally disagree, you got to let people have a voice. I think that's really important right now. I've got a couple of questions here that I want to get to really quickly. Okay. So one of the questions was, I'm a business owner who's been so consumed in planning my reopen that I feel disconnected from my finances. How do I come back? You know, I actually just talked to someone about this yesterday, and him and I were talking about, I said, before we meet, because he's like, well, I don't even know where I'm supposed to be right now. And I said, before we meet, why don't we do year over year, right? Because he has a little seasonality in his business, but I said, let's look at where you were last year at this time, and where you had budgeted to be at this time, and then where are you? Are you way left, right? Are you somewhere in the middle? And so that was a really good starting point for us, because in his industry, he really has 3 ways that he makes that his revenue comes in. And he said to me, well, this doesn't make sense. I don't even want to make money anymore. I'm focused over here now. And so it was really just a clear picture that if that wasn't an option for a couple months, and now it's not where he wants to focus going forward, then let's take that off the table, and don't feel, you've got to recognize, of course, that revenue is not coming in there. That's not where your energy is being spent. And where can you spend your time and your energy to build revenue? Because I mean, you know, we internally talk about PPP loans and the fee income, and oh gosh, that's great. That's a one-time for us. We're not going to focus on that because that's one time. How do you spend your time and your energy building the SBA program so you can hit it when there's a new SBA?
This is that short-term, long-term view that you have to maintain both.
So what do you need to build today? Where do you need to focus today? So that was I guess that would be my recommendation, to even go back 2 or 3 years and ask the question, where was I at? Where am I at today? What are the circumstances? And honestly, where do you want to be? Because remember, it takes a decade to build something. Yeah. So where do you want to be in that decade, and how do you start building it today?
And I think that's important, and that's even a good reminder for me, because there was so much momentum coming into 2020 for so many businesses. I mean, our budget was like, whew, that's scary, but man, we could really do that. and then the rug got pulled out, right? So, and you feel like a little bit like a failure, even though you couldn't control it. And so I think it's reframing it financially.
Absolutely.
Where you're not you could still be up over last year.
There's a lot of, there's a lot. Again, I was with a customer yesterday who, happens to be a dealer for a product, and everyone called him to find this product. He sold it all himself, and he's way up, and he's just doing a wonderful job. And I'm like, so there's ways to take advantage of the market.
Yes,
too. It's not, and that's the piece I think I want to say today. It's not all negative. I think right now you're like, oh, you hear, what's going on in the government, you hear what's going on in our economy and society, et cetera. It's like there's a lot of really great things going on. And how do you look at it all and pick pieces of the great thing? Yes. How do you take pieces of that, and whether it's make a change, make money, keep your team employed, whatever it is, but how do you take opportunities today?
Because it can get overwhelming. There's a lot of noise coming at us right now. And let's be honest, we're going into an election. The noise is going to get louder, right? I think as business leaders and business owners, we just have to choose what noise we're allowing in, right? And that's a different choice for everybody, but you can't let it all in, because otherwise you'll stay curled up in the fetal position.
Do you have a secret for how you don't do that, by the way?
For how you don't what?
Like let the noise in?
You assess your emotional state. If something brings you to a negative place and immediately generates negative thoughts, question whether you really need to hear it. And that is people, as well as news, as well as you've got to reevaluate who you're listening to and who your partners are right now. Your banker, your strategy partner, are they bringing good things to you, or are they doom and gloom? You have to surround yourself with positive energy right now. We will survive this.
And having an accountant that checks in on you is important.
Absolutely.
Having a team that checks in and you check in on your team is important. I was going to tell you our secret is we take think weekends, and where we will go up to our cabin for a weekend without the kids, and my husband's usually outside and I'm usually inside. But it's really important that reading and having some quiet time, and really how do you bring 3 or 4 ideas together. That's been a really, really big piece. And as we look at some of the cool things that we're gonna do at Village Bank and we're doing in the economy, it's not just me doing that. There's lots of our team members doing it, but how do you really start to bring ideas from finance and from marketing and from community together, and you build it together?
So action calms fear.
Yes.
Right? Fear is always going to be there. There's always going to be the fear of the fall. What's going to happen? So no one can change that, but taking action, reading, learning something new, right? Thinking about your strategy, that fear gets quieter and quieter the more you take action.
And also, that's a horrible idea. Throwing it away.
Right.
That helps too.
But that's okay. You got it out.
One of the best things I ever read was, I'm going to blank. I don't remember if it was. It might have been another Drucker, because I'm a huge Drucker fan. I don't care how old his stuff is. He said the way to really free up your mind is to look at something once. And if you're not that's on, you let it go. You let it go, and you gotta let things.
And you might come back to it later, but there's things that you need to.
You gotta let go.
Make good choices.
And not hold on to maybe what January 1 said, but really hold on to what June 1 said, or what you want July 1 to say. Because it's different.
Yep, absolutely.
Another email we got was, I didn't receive a PPP loan and I'm trying to bring back employees. What should I do about payroll costs? So you know what I would do? You can reach out to a villager, you can reach out to me if you want. I would reach out to your banker and I would walk through that with them. I think that there's a lot of different programs today, local, federal, also SBA programs that can help out local businesses with payroll and benefit expenses. I also would, sorry, this question isn't more specific, but I'm not sure if it's about bringing employees back full-time or reopening and bringing back all employees, but there are a lot of finance options out there that can either be grants or loans that you would pay back. So I would reach out to your banker and ask what some of those are. Deed is a great resource. Any SBA lender is a great resource for something like that. While my business was closed, I used a line of credit to pay fixed expenses and my access to liquidity has dwindled. How can I restore the access to liquidity? Again, I would walk in and I would talk to your banker. I would talk to your banker about why you use that line of credit. You're not going to be the only one with that stuff. And I just want to be really clear about it. Right now is the time to walk in and say, I kept my doors open and this is what I did. And your banker's going to go, good job, or oof, let's fix that. Everyone is doing it. Everyone is keeping their doors open. Everyone was in, how do I do this mode? And so don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Go in and talk to your banker. Come talk to us if you need to. There's a lot of programs out there to help business owners not only keep their doors open, but thrive in this market. Even around technology, there's a lot of great programs out there on how to do $10,000 and $5,000 grants for small businesses to implement technology into their different lines for revenue. So I think it's good stuff, and I would reach out to your bank or reach out to us at Village Bank, and we can help connect you with some of those resources. 5 more minutes.
Any questions from anybody online?
We got one about how can I rejuvenate my marketing plan? So I'm in a spot where I don't know where to move next. I don't know what to say next. How do I rejuvenate? Depending on what type. Well, do you want to answer that?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll add. Yeah.
I always think about what's our value, like what are our values? Like why is our business here? What do we stand for? We're an entrepreneurs bank. We were built by an entrepreneur and we support entrepreneurs. So in my case, because that's who we support now, if you support women or you support children or you support whatever that might be, you want to look at that. But in our case, what do entrepreneurs need right now? Entrepreneurs need us to support their dreams with our eyes wide open for them, right? That's important. Our eyes have to be wide open. We have to be telling them what we're seeing in their industry, in the street, in finance, what programs are available, where we think there could be a hiccup, where we think they're killing it, and go for it. And so I think that it is so vital right now that we continue to support entrepreneurs, whether it's their village, their team, their village, their family, their model, them, their payroll, investment in technology, equipment, buy that building that they're housed in, buy that software they need to build their brand. I go after what is important to them, and that's how you market. And make it real and transparent. Like, make it real. Don't be afraid to show what you've helped, in our case, entrepreneurs do, and really where we even could have done better. I always say make it personal too, because if you're an entrepreneur, and I think everyone on our team is an entrepreneur in some way, I know you are, it is personal. We wouldn't be doing that. Right?
And my advice is, for anybody listening, is double down on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, during times like this, is not the time to pull back on your marketing. It's the time to double down. Now, it needs to be strategic, right? And call me, we can help. But doubling down on it right now, making it purpose-based versus sales-based, right? You're not selling stuff right now. You're selling your purpose. You're double down on your values and talking about that, your partnerships, your relationships, how you've supported clients. That's what people want to read. Right? So put yourself on the customer side, or just even on the follower side, and say, people are bombarded with so much crap right now. What do they want to hear? They want to hear the positive stuff. They want to hear the purpose-driven stuff. So we're telling all of our clients to double down on their employment brand and their team and share great stories, because that's going to help you so much more when we come out of this self. Right? It's just a very different approach.
Absolutely. And don't, I hope I don't offend a newspaper or magazine subscription, but when I look at what are people cutting right now, no one is cutting this, which has LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snap. I don't know, there's so many, I don't know. But that's easy, right? Find a quote that is meaningful and write 6 to 7 lines about why it matters. Ask a customer to put a testimonial about you. Have an employee talk about why they are in our case, villager, but X, right? Or, if you know your clients, look on their LinkedIn profile, and if they're interested in a board, or they have a passion, find an article on it and send it to them and tell them you were thinking about them, or connect them with someone that they've mentioned to you that they want to meet. I mean, there's so many easy ways to help your customers and your clients. Write them a thank you right now.
It's just staying in front of mind of people and serving them right now, I think, is what's going to pay dividends.
And a lot of this is free, right? None of our time is free, but a lot of it can be free. It can be things you can do at 7 o'clock at night or 7 a.m. in the morning. It doesn't need to be something that is over the top. It can be really, in our case, sometimes that gritty marketing, that not so perfect picture or not so perfect stuff has
Yeah, people are not looking for perfection right now.
No.
There is no such thing. They're looking for real.
Spell check, but that's not about it, right? Spell check is important. Spell check's important.
Any other questions?
Someone had asked me, like, what's my superpower right now?
Someone else. It's getting out there. Superpower Success Podcast. Check it out.
Someone else, and I think I shared this last time we talked about. Sometimes it's just sitting back and listening to people right now about that you weren't expecting. Whether it's about their being a mom right now with a whole bunch of kids at home, whether it's about a husband that used to travel and now he doesn't, whether it's about one of their teammates that they're managing and what that teammate's going through. Maybe it's a great idea that they have that can help change the way revenue is built. So I think right now it's just sitting back and listening and then taking that think time to bring it all together.
That's absolutely important too. If you're going to do two things, it's get focused. Do not let this control you, control it as much as you can. So get focused. And the second piece is evaluate and find new partners, right? Really lean on your partners. When you're telling the stories about the banker and there are partners that should be in your corner. If they weren't, you should be reevaluating right now. Whether that's your accountant, you really should, because if they weren't in your corner during this, it's just, they're not going to be there during the next crisis. But also look for new partnerships, right? Where are those areas? When I say double down, when you look at the 08-09 recession, I think of Jennifer Smith with Innovative Office. So she doubled down when the rest of the industry was curling up in a ball and saying, we're pulling back, we're firing people. She doubled down and hired. She's tripled her business since then to $100 million plus, right? Yeah. So it's in the times like this, within reason financially, but now is not the time to back away. It's to find new partnerships. It's to find people to help you in your marketing and enter into that in a budgetary way that you can withstand. But now is not the time to curl up in a ball.
I'm so glad you brought her up. I was on a call with her last Friday, and she was talking. She wrote a manual. So again, 100 million plus revenue business, right? You're like, you're at home on COVID on a beach somewhere. Nope. She was doing over 100, her and her team, over 100 Zoom calls a day on this how to come back to work safe manual that they put together. And of course, they're selling products off of it. But her herself, she said, I had days where I did 25, 30 of them myself. And it was just 15 minutes, but she had all these people that wanted her to describe this manual, send it out, and then they would come in and buy product. And she's like, our team can handle it, so I stepped in. And she killed it. And so again, it's someone who could pivot their business, find a way to sell, find a way to make a connection, a relationship.
And find a way to serve. She finds ways to serve. The best entrepreneurs find ways to serve during this time, which is what you do.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's what you do too.
I know I do.
That's why your clients love you. We know someone's going to be your client. You've been just wonderful.
Yeah.
So thank you. That's been a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I think we're good. If anyone has any questions at all, I know both of our information is on here. So really feel free to reach out at any time. And there's never a dumb question or a stupid question or anything. Honestly, any questions we've ever gotten on anything like this has helped me. And then it's made me go back to other clients and ask the same, are you thinking this too? So thank you for your time. Please reach out if you need anything at all today, tomorrow,
for in the future, and stay safe and take care of your team.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks for joining us on It Takes a Village, hosted by Aleesha Webb. If you liked what you heard today and want to hear more, follow us on social media at Village Bank Online on Facebook and Instagram, and Village Banking on Twitter.